Hello, everyone. My name is Jay, and I'm a DevRel engineer over at Midnight. This is our first Dev Hangout for the year, so Happy New Year to everyone watching, and I hope you're all off to a great start. I'd like to kick it off this year on a fun note, and we'll be talking about building applications on Midnight, focusing on gaming. I am joined today by one of the best builders in our community, Erick. And Erick, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you're all building?
For sure, Jay. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me and be able to talk here with the community. I'm Erick from Dapps. I'm a collaborator of Mesh as well. And our main objective is to onboard developers and businesses. And when businesses are ready, to create those products for them.
And I think you've been doing an amazing job already. I see you in the community all the time, posting different things for us to get started with development. So thanks, Erick. I wanted to bring you on because as many of the audience knows, we are going through a transition at Midnight, and we're migrating from testnet 02 to PreviewNet. And many of our infrastructure providers, our tooling providers, they're already getting started and migrating their applications. So we're witnessing teams go live, and we anticipate many more over the next couple of weeks and months. So as many developers in the community start to work on applications on PreviewNet, I thought it would be great to share some of MeshJS's tools so that you can show people how to go from the idea to deployment as soon as possible. So your team has created a starter template that streamlines the development process. And now I'd like to turn it over to you to share that template and show people how to get started.
Perfect. Jay, I think I lost communication, but can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Jay, there's a lot to talk about this starter template, but I wanted to start first with a macro perspective of what we want to accomplish with this starter template, right? So it's 2026, right? Everything is AI right now. So what we want to do here is to make developers build fast without worrying too much about templates and just care about logic, and also be able to use AI to build faster. So this template has been built in that way, so AI can understand what is the whole idea, and it can create better code for you. So it's modularized. So we're gonna go through all that, and first I'm sharing here the starter template. It's really simple. You basically have three folders. You have a contract folder, a CLI folder, and a React folder, which is the UI, right? So before going through the code, I wanted to share a diagram that pretty much illustrates what is kind of the workflow for any developers that want to build a dApp in Midnight. So this kind of illustrates this diagram, right? So first, you have to build a contract, right? For that, in Midnight, we have Compact. You have to compile it, and then you have to do some unit tests. So you are doing just the logic part. Once you are done with that, let's call it phase 1, you start doing phase 2. And for phase 2, you create a dApp, right? It could be a headless dApp. You don't have to worry about the UI part yet. And you integrate the providers, right? Providers, we call it indexers, node, proof server. You compile it, and then you do some unit tests. Once the contract it's okay, the logic it's okay, and you are able to talk with wallets and different providers, then you're ready to do the integration test. Put it in a UI and test, for example, browser wallets. So for that, you have this integration test. You first start with local instances, and then you can test with preview. And once you are ready, you deploy it, right? So this is pretty much the workflow. So the template was made so you can follow these steps. So let's go back to the template here, right? So we are gonna open the README here, and we're gonna read it together, right? So it's been built so you don't have to worry about anything about the template and configuration, nothing. You just put it on your code, use AI, and you can install it really quick. So you have some prerequisites, Node.js, Docker, Compact, Lace, and the faucet. And the setup, it's pretty simple. You have the compact tools. Just you have to run this, and you're gonna be able to install the latest the latest compact tool. There is a caveat here related to the latest compact version that we're gonna use right now. Right now, the compact dev tools, it's you're gonna have that version 0.27 that we are using right now. You're gonna have to download it manually, but soon they're gonna be able to people use this compact dev tool and install the latest version, right? So for installing, see here we have the structure, we have the CLI part, the contract part, in the React part, just 3 folders. Then we're going to explain how this can be modularized to integrate other contracts. So for the installation, it's pretty simple. At the root of the template, you just have to npm install. You're going to download all the libraries, and then npm run build. And with that command, it's going to compile the contracts, and it's going to build everything. And then you just have to initialize some variables. So let's see what those variables are about. So first, we have to go to the CLI folder, and then you're gonna have to update this environment template. So we have here the .inf file, but here you have the template. So we just have to update our preview mnemonic and our undeployed and shielded address. So what's going on here? We're gonna use 2 networks, undeployed and preview. Preview, if we remember when we were talking about here, we have these local nets, and then we have the test net. In this case, it's preview. So we're going to use these 2 networks. So this preview mnemonic is going to be those 24 words that you use for preview. How can you get that? Pretty easy. You have to download the Lace wallet, and then you go under the network and deploy, and you're going to get that address. I'm going to show you how to do that. So here, for example, we have the preview, and this is the Lace wallet, right? So here you can change between preview and undeployed. If you click in undeployed, you're going to have to type your password. And now you can see that our wallet is not going to sync. Why? Because we don't have any instances to talk to, because it's everything local. I'm going to show you how to run those as well. But in the meanwhile, you don't need to run any instances. You're going to be able to just grab your address. So you can see here that you have Mita address undeployed. So we're in the undeployed network. So you just copy this, and you're going to be able to paste it here. Here, right? And for the mnemonic, once you created that wallet, you're going to have those 24 words. So you're going to paste them here. Perfect. What else? Then you're going to have to update under the Vite React folder your another template. So let's go to that another variable. We have the React. So we have here the template. So in this case, it's going to be our contract. So the way this template was designed is that you deployed a contract once, and then people are going to be able to interact with that contract. So in this case, I'm gonna show you guys later on how to deploy a contract. And once you deploy it, you're just gonna paste that address here, and you're gonna be able to interact with that contract. Okay, perfect. So that's regarding the environment. And once that's ready, just 5 things you have to change and update. You just run this command at the root, and your application is gonna be running. So I'm going to show you the 2 ways to run this application. You're going to be able to run it on preview, and you're going to be able to run it using the undeployed network. For the preview one, we just have to run this command. So let's run it together. So here, I'm just going to open so we are at the root, right? So we are just going to run the frontend. Okay, so we run it. I have here the Docker instance as well. So since I'm using the preview network, I'm not going to use any instance on my computer. So you can see here at the Docker, I don't have any instances. Everything's going to be hosted on the cloud, even the proof server. This is amazing about the Lace wallet. So here we have our local host. So we're gonna just open that together. So we have here the localhost 25. So we go to the wallet UI, and now we're gonna be able to connect to our wallet. So first, let's open the wallet. And here, you can see that we are not connecting because we are in undeployed. We are testing first preview. So we're gonna have to change this back. Preview.
And I just see a comment here from John saying it would be cool if all the artifacts for undeployed and preview were color coded for intuitive building. So just mention from a developer.
Yeah, feature coming, John. I mean, John always giving really nice ideas. That would be a really nice feature. Okay, so I have switched to preview. So now I just have to wait for that to sync. I can see that it's in 0. So sometimes that happens. When that happens, you just have to click here on midnight and click on preview again.
I think it's important to highlight so that, preview, we're kind of going through this migration now. So it's important that we have access to the undeployed network, which we'll go over in a little bit, just in case we can't get to preview at the moment.
Yeah, it should, well, it's sync. So you can see here that we have already synced with the preview network, but we don't see any dust. So the way it works right now with the layer V6 in midnight, is that we have Jay, can you hear me? Jay, can you hear me? I think I lost connection. Okay, I'm back. Yeah,
you're back.
I'm perfect. So you can see here that I'm connected on preview, right? I have 2,000 nights, and I'm already generating dust, right? When I go to undeploy, I'm going to show you the process how to delegate to a dust wallet and generate dust. But in this case, I have already delegated, and I'm just waiting for the wallet to sync to actually show my dust balance, right? So here I just have to wait. It takes 30 seconds, 20 seconds to see. Now it's updated. So you can see here that I already have dust in my wallet since I delegate like 5 days ago, 6 days ago. For now, the time it takes for the dust wallet to fill, it's 1 week. So yeah, sometimes it asks me to sync all the time. Let's see. So you can see here that it's been 6 days getting dust in my wallet, and it's 80% full. So in 1 week, I'm gonna get to the cap, right? And after that, I don't get more dust anymore. So I'm gonna be able to use that during the transactions. So perfect. So now I have my wallet sync. I have dust. So if I go back to the application, right? Remember that we are running this application here. So we are connected to that application. Since I'm connected to the preview network, if I go here and connect to Lace, we can see here that anything gets connected. Why? Because we have to wait for this dust to show up. So let's see. Yeah, sometimes this takes a while, this Lace wallet to sync. I'm just gonna refresh here.
And just for
yeah,
I was just gonna say for the audience, if you're seeing dust in this generation for the first time, our white paper is out if you want to read about how that all works. And we also had a previous dev hangout where we went over how dust generation works.
Yeah. So while we wait for this dust to show up, I'm just gonna go back here to the IDE to show you how this certain template is modularized, right? So we have 3 folders. So if you run it, AI is gonna understand that everything related to contract is under this folder. And the way it was built, that we have this contract. But in the future, if you want to add more contracts, you just have to add more folders. So let's say a developer builds something related to games, something related to DeFi. You just have to add that on this template. The same happens with the API. Here's the control CLI. You're going to have to add new folders. So in that way, you don't have to build everything from scratch. Developers are going to be able to share different code, and AI is going to know how to integrate. And the same thing happens for React. If you see here in React, we have this folder here, modules, and you can see here that we have two modules. One, it's the wallet widget. So that's that connection with the wallet that you just saw. Everything is integrated. You don't have to change anything. And if you want to change something on the UI, AI is going to know how to change that. The same thing happens for the integration of the counter contract. We have this module. If you have other contracts, then you're just going to need to add more folders here. So you can see how it's modularized. Once you start putting a lot of contracts in the same folder, AI gets messy, right? So having everything modularized, it's much better for AI and for debugging for the developers. So that's something nice about this starter template. Okay, let's see if the wallet wants to sync. If it doesn't sync right now, we want to wait 1 minute. If it doesn't sync, oh, okay, it's Dust, it's here. You can see here. So we're going to be able to now connect to the preview network. See? This is a real life testing. So should be able to. You
like
have
mentioned.
To yeah.
I was just gonna say, like we mentioned earlier, it's fairly new. You know, things are still in development, so there's gonna be some kinks while you're working through it.
Yeah, but now it got connected, right? So you have to make sure that you have to choose the right network. The starter templates built so you don't have to switch between networks. Once you connect your wallet and you choose what is the network that you want to work on, everything gets connected, right? So in this case, we have selected preview, and we see that we have connected our wallet successfully. We can see here that we have our preview endpoints. We have our substrate nodes, indexers, WebSockets, proof server, and here the addresses. We can see the balances here. So then,
for your screen, can you zoom in a bit, because it's a little bit hard to see some of the content
Sure. So here, I think it's much better. So yeah, there's so much information here, but pretty much we can see that we have successfully connected our wallet, and then we have the counter dashboard. Here, it's where we can deploy the contract and interact with that contract. In this case, we have already deployed contract. We can see here that this is the contract address, and we only have one action that we can do in this contract, which is the increment counter. Something really nice, I've deployed this contract 1 week ago, and I've put it on X for people to interact with that contract, and I have seen that there's already been 11 developers interacting with that contract, which is something really nice. And something funny about Midnight, it's those 11 people that have interacted with that contract, I don't even know who they are, and I cannot know, right? That's how Midnight works. So perfect. So this is preview, and when something nice about this, it's that if I open the Docker, I don't have any instances, and I'm going to be able to increment the counter without having to worry about the proof server. Why is that? If we go back to the Lace wallet, we can see here that on the preview, Lace, it's providing us with an instance of the proof server. So it's really huge for user experience, right? Users are going to be able to interact with Midnight contracts as if were any other contracts in other network, right? And having all this zero knowledge under the hood. So perfect. So this is preview, right? Not sure how much time I have, Jay, but just let me know when my time runs off.
No, you're so good.
Okay. So for the development, for the undeployed network, right? Let's say that preview it's going under maintenance, and you want to keep developing. The way I recommend, as I show here, you should start with the logic, right? You don't depend on the preview network. You have compact logic. Once that, you can test your contract using the local testnet and deploy it. You don't depend on preview. Preview is just at the end. So we're gonna test right now this part, right? So we go back and in this case, we're gonna need Docker, right? Because we're gonna host those instances in our computer. So we are already running the front end, which is this command here. We don't have to run it again, but now we're gonna have to boot the instances. For that, we're gonna run this command here at the root. So I'm just gonna open another window here, another terminal, and we're gonna run this command. So once I run this command, you can see here on the Docker, we're gonna have those instances boot up. So we have proof server, we have the node, and we have the indexer, right? Perfect. So we have those instances running. So now the question is the following, right? We have already seen here how to interact with a contract. So if we are using the undeployed network, how I'm gonna get my wallet funded? Because in here you have a faucet, but in undeployed, how I get my wallet funded? So for that, within the server template, you don't have to worry about that. You're already gonna have a pre-funded wallet, and for you to interact with a browser wallet like Lace, you're gonna run a command so you can fund a specific wallet. So that's one of these environment variables that I mentioned before you guys earlier, that you can specify what wallet you want to fund under undeployed network. So in this case, I already put my wallet, so we're gonna have to fund it. And for that, we are gonna run this other command, which is the setup standalone. We have already run it. So this command, it does two things. It spin up the instances and it funds our wallet. So if we go back to the contract now, we can now switch to undeployed. And you can see that now our wallet is synced because we have those instances running and our wallet has already been funded. So I have 1 billion nights. So I'm rich on undeployed network. Everybody can be rich as well if you run this starter template, right? So I have this 1 billion night token. And now what I need to have is dust, right? So for that, I can generate dust. So I'm just gonna click here. I'm gonna review the transaction and I'm gonna sign that transaction to start delegating dust. So since we have 1 billion tokens, 1 billion night tokens, we're going to be able to generate dust really quickly and be able to interact with the contracts. So now it's processing that transaction. One nice thing about this delegation is that for those UTXOs tokens, night tokens that haven't been delegated so far, you're going to be able to delegate to a dust address without consuming any dust, right? So that's why we were able to generate dust without having dust for the first time. So perfect. We have dust. So now we are under deployed. We have our wallet. It's funded. We can interact with the same Dapps that I show you, but using the undeployed network. So if we go back here to the contract, right? We go to the I'm connected, and now I'm connected. Addresses are using undeployed. So now what I need to do is to deploy a contract. Once I deploy that contract, I'm going to update that variable that I show you here. Here under front end, you have this env, right? So you're going to have to update this variable, which is the contract that you just deployed. And once you update this front end is going to update with that contract. It's going to show here the contract, and you're going to be able to interact with that contract. So it's increment. So well, you see here the starter template. We have successfully interact with undeployed, preview, and it's modularized, meaning you're going to be able to integrate with other contracts and AI. It's really AI friendly for developers to interact. So I try to put everything together within 20 minutes. But just for everybody to give some context, I'm we're gonna start again on Eda Labs creating those YouTube videos, tutorials. I'm gonna go through this template and how to build contracts with much details. So this is coming soon.
That was amazing. I'm definitely excited to start testing it myself. I haven't had the chance to look at the starter template, but this is a great overview. Seems super seamless. The fact that you don't have to like spring up your own proof server is awesome, getting us closer and closer to that future of abstraction where you don't have to really worry about a lot of these cases. I do see some comments, so while you're here, I want to bring those up. One of the questions is, may I ask about those AI which claim to be able to write code for you? Are you using a specific AI that works well with this?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys my tricks. Okay, so well, this is pretty. I mean, as I mentioned, right? We are 2026. AI, it's a tool that everybody should use, right? To build code faster, and we need to understand how everything works, so we're gonna be able to debug what AI is building. So the way I build here, it's that if you see my IDE, I'm using Windsurf. So this is kind of the copilot that kind of build along with me. And for kind of the engineer that do some kind of background jobs, I use Claude, right? So if you run Claude here, you can see here that we have Claude, right? So I have Claude on local instances. We can run Claude on the web as well, on the cloud. So this is kind of the two AIs that I used, and I have tested with this starter template. And in Eda Labs, we build other products, and that's why I can confirm that it's AI friendly. This starter template, it integrates really well since it's modularized. So AI, it doesn't get messy for AI to understand how your repo is structured and how everything works, right? So yeah, that's the setup.
Okay, awesome. I use Claude from time to time, but I have to get back into it. I haven't actually used it for anything on Midnight, so it could be a good opportunity to use the starter template and see how far I can get there. It seems like a lot of people are excited that they have 1 billion night tokens. People are just
yeah.
They're offering to buy other people beer and stuff. There's a lot going on in the chat.
Oh, if somebody else wants some nights, I can give you some. I have 1 billion nights on my wallet.
Nice. So that's the other thing to consider while you're building. If you're running into issues in preview nets, go through the starter template, look at the undeployed network and how to get started there. There you can fund your wallet, you can compile your contracts, start processing, and test out everything you need there. Let me see. I saw one question about T-Dust. Is this the only way to get T-Dust as of right now? Yes. I suggest looking at the undeployed network. And I think that's most of the questions I have here.
Jay, just one extra thing I forgot to mention is that this starter template is just not for local deployment using undeployed and preview, but it's also set up so you can deploy it, right? So I was mentioning here that once everything is tested, you're going to be able to deploy, right? So this starter template has already been deployed. So if you see here on this other tab, I didn't show you, it's under Contract Nebula Builders. So this is the same contract that I just showed you, but it's deployed on the cloud, right? So you see, if you go to this link, you're gonna be able to interact. And I'm not pretty sure how people are interacting with that contract. You can just go to that link and interact directly, or you can actually deploy it and on your local testnet and interact with that contract. But if you want to increment this counter here, that it's 11 right now, one more, you just go to this link, and with Delays Wallet, you don't have to worry about proof server, and you're gonna be able to just click increment, and this counter is gonna go to 12.
Nice. So I say we share that in the chat and see how high we can get this up. Post it on Twitter, share with your friends, see how high we can get this counter.
Yeah, let's go.
Nice. So thank you for sharing the template. Now I'd like to transition over to gaming. So Now teams should be able to use the template to work on their applications. The counter application is a super basic implementation, but counters are core primitives to a lot of video games. They're used to keep score, to manage turn order, to track accumulation of resources. And for the second half of this dev hangout, I'd like to cover a few primitives that any developer here can build, incorporate into games, and the implications that it has for their video games. So you should be able to see my screen now. I see it on the side, and let's hop right into it. So one thing I want to cover is kind of the distinction between Midnight and other networks that's important to remember. So remember that the difference between Midnight and other networks is that the user's data stays private, stays local. We generate proofs based on their data, and we determine what should be public. So in-app activities, user data, that can all stay anonymous, while the user's assets that are being transferred, you could choose to make that public, like a night transfer or something like that. So this results in Dapps where the creators don't have full control of the game. So it's a decentralized game. They can't wipe the data, they can't manipulate the outcomes, and this architecture has many implications for video games being developed on Midnight. So think about games where the information is hidden. This is what Midnight is optimized for. Things like player data, asset ownership. If you're collecting, let's say, NFTs, but you don't necessarily want to reveal your builds or what you're gathering, some decision making that's happening in private, you can reveal that at a later time. Things like asynchronous resolution, where you're taking action now, but you don't want that revealed up until a later time. And things like verifiable outcomes without surveillance. So think about video games where maybe you're entering tournaments, there's prize pools, and you want to be able to claim those prize pools without necessarily revealing your identity or any of your personal data. You can build those kind of applications and games on Midnight. So there's a couple of design considerations that you should have in the back of your mind while you're building your video games and going through this process, which is the latency between the proof generation and settlements on chain. So this has some implications for your designs. And that leads to games being designed such as turn-based games where I take a turn, Eric takes a turn, and we are expected to wait for each other's interactions. So those games work really well because the user's already anticipating that they're going to wait a bit. For the same reason, asynchronous multiplayer games really work because if I take a turn, then maybe Eric comes back to the game half an hour later. He's able to take his turn. And there's this expectation of waiting either way. So it's baked into the experience. So while you're designing your games, think about the limitations within blockchains in general and how you have to design around those limitations. One thing I am interested in is end of round settlement. Is I've seen a lot of competitive games where there's interactions happening live. There's, let's say, like live action games, and people can bet on who is going to win, what's the outcome. And a lot of developers are inclined to have all of the interactions on chain. But what you can do is instead take the outcome of the game and then have a transaction settle based on that outcome. So there's a ton of different things going on, maybe resources being purchased, things being destroyed. But then at the end, you decide, all right, this person won. They're able to claim the prize pool and withdraw their money. So you don't have to have all of those interactions happen on chain. You can have the end of the round settlement happen on chain. And then hidden resolution behind animations. This is one thing that I tend to suggest is that if you have a waiting period, you can kind of hide what's happening by keeping the player entertained, by having some sort of animation, something processing. You have troops maybe marching from one place to another while that transaction is being processed. So they're not just waiting there, waiting for something to happen. Now, when I think about primitives and game design, besides things like the counter that Eric just went over, there's a couple of other game design patterns that come to mind that I think about all the time when I think about Web3 gaming and Midnight in particular. So let's hop right into those. So the first is this local and private state machines. So a lot of the players' data is being stored locally. They're gathering resources. And in a lot of cases, they want to hide their resources. Well, they have private resources, but they want to be able to exchange on those resources in public. And we've seen that with like Diablo 2, where people were starting to sell their assets on eBay and all these like third parties, but the game developers didn't have a way to manage those economies and those networks. So in these cases, your inventories are still private. You're able to accumulate your resources, but they have economic value. So having them on chain allows you to sell on third-party platforms, transact while maintaining the rest of your inventory private, your your accomplishments private, things of that nature. The next features that I tend to think about frequently is selective disclosure gates. So in some games, you maybe want to prove that you've accomplished some missions, that you've done something in particular, and that'll allow you to experience unique things within your video games. Not only does this apply to within the video game, but also things like, let's say, if content is rated for a certain age, you may want to pre-qualify the person to see, are they of a certain age for them to be able to access this content, things of that nature. So those are things that you can bake into your gaming experience, as well as they're discovering different things, maybe in role-playing games, uh, games in that situation. Another game that I like in particular, and I've seen multiple developers kind of spring up, is asymmetric information contracts. This is my personal favorite. These are cases where games have private hidden roles, and part of the game is finding out the secret, right? So in the case of werewolf, you have, like, let's say, a table of people. There's one person who's a werewolf. There's other people who are in the village who are trying to discover who the werewolf is. These kind of games are perfect for midnight because you can keep that private state local. And we've already seen this. Like, I think Caleb from our community, he's created a Wordle game. So where I keep my word private and then other people try to guess what that word is in order to win the game. So those kind of games are perfect for, midnight. What our offering is keeping some state private and trying to find out what that secret is. So social deduction games are perfect. The other set of games that I think about also is games where we have to make decisions first, and then we see those things play out. So in the case of like Frozen Synapse, it's designed around committing your actions first and then resolving them later. So your players plan privately. These are like strategic kind of war games where you say, I want to send my troops here. I want to take a particular action at a certain time with like these resources. You plan in private, and then everyone takes action at the same time. So then it's kind of like a simulation type of game. So the reason why this works is because you can have people generate their proofs, process their transactions, and they're expected to wait for the other players to make their decisions as well. And then once all of that settles, then they start to take action. So there's this built-in expectation of waiting and then settling after. The next series is proof of play. So in this case, Trackmania is about like proving your performance, speed runs, getting fast through courses fast, and making sure that you have kind of your records and people are trying to beat your records, things of that nature. So you may want to prove that, like, hey, I beat this track in a particular time, but you don't want to reveal how you did it, because then people can replicate it and they can, try to beat it using your own strategies. So in this case, you can, make times and prove that you've completed the game within a particular time without revealing how you did it, what your strategy was. Another one is EVE Online. So there's these large games with massive economies where people have particular roles, particular jobs, where they're gathering resources, and you have to know who to trust. How do you work with people, form alliances and partnerships? And some of that may involve revealing some private data. So maybe revealing that you're secretly part of a clan, or that you secretly know a skill, or maybe you have an asset that's rare that you didn't want to tell anybody about. And now you can reveal it to different partners and say, hey, I have this. This is my proof that I have this asset, and we can build a ship, or we can build a base based on those assets. So these kind of games where some of the information is private, and then you want to reveal some of it to enhance collaboration, partnerships, creation. Those kind of games also work really well with Midnight. Now, this is an idea that I've been playing around with, and I'm kind of curious on your thoughts, Eric, on dust depletion and usage. I was thinking it could be interesting if we had games where, let's say, you cap people's night, right? So I have 10 night, you have 10 night, and it generates a certain amount of dust. And the game limitation is based on how much dust that we burn per turn. So let's say I take like 5 actions, and in a traditional game, it's like I would be using my mana points or something like that. But in this case, I'm kind of treating dust as like mana, or as that resource that gets depleted, and then I have to wait for it to kind of generate again for me to take action. I'm curious about what your thoughts are on there, Eric.
Actually, yeah, that's a really nice use case. Never thought about it, and yeah, actually, it's kind of a feature of privacy used within a game for you to wait for doing things. I mean, it's I'm just impressed of how this Night and Dust is gonna work out because I mean, there's so many ways I see developers using this kind of integration and dependency of these two tokens to actually do things, do logic, right? So yeah, what you mentioned, it should work out really well.
So that's what I like about this too. When you talk about blockchain or on-chain gaming, is these unique experiences, even things where like if a lot of the state is on-chain, you can kind of build your own interfaces to some games. I've seen a couple of game studios do that where maybe one person is interacting with the contracts with a CLI, but another person is interacting with the contracts through a mobile application. So it creates completely custom new experiences, and depending on the night and dust generation, that has some implications on how you design your games and what kind of experiences you create. So this one in particular, I was playing around with yesterday, thinking through how this would work, and I think there's something here that could be pretty fun to work with. And now the last one I have on my list is forkable private game worlds. As I just mentioned, you can have a lot of the state be public that other people can access, reuse, repurpose for their own games. And games like Disco Elysium, that's heavily driven by narratives, but based on private decisions, you can have people interact with the game with their private choices, but without revealing kind of what they did, where they arrived at, and revealing these stories that other people may still want to experience for themselves. So at this point, if you're wondering, like, why make video games on chain, consider that many of these assets that people are accumulating, the activities they're being involved in, and the reputation that they're building in these games have real world value. But in some cases, it's locked within those video games. And even in the case of blockchain games, where it's not locked within the video games, you can create your own interfaces. You can create third-party marketplaces to sell these items. A lot of your data is going to be public. So if you don't want to hide, if you don't want to share your account balance, if you don't want to share the assets you own, all the video games you're involved in, maybe you won a big prize pool from a tournament and you don't want to reveal that. That's where Midnight really shines, is where you can take advantage of that. So Midnight excels at strategy, deduction games, narrative-based games, education games, where people are taking their time to understand what's going on without an expectation of things happening fast and live. Anything where it involves credentials that you may want to hide. You may want to hide that you're a general or that you're on a part of a competing faction, things of that nature. And competitive logic, things where there's like pools of prizes or tournaments, and you may want to claim that without revealing your identity. So you can always show that, hey, I'm on top of all these games, I'm winning, but you don't necessarily have to reveal who you are. So when you're building your own games going forward, you should ask yourself, where does the information improve fairness within the game? What should be private? How does delaying some information increase the tension within the games? And where does this privacy component with the public component, where does that unlock new mechanics for video games and where you can experiment there? So while we covered some of the more complex games and examples, I want to encourage everyone to focus on hyper casual games. If you see the screen now, these are kind of two of the games that our teams are working on that are under the development. So they're super quick, super fast, super casual. And the idea is for you to spring these up, prototype them, and get the community to start playing. So if you're looking back at this presentation, you can take ideas from those other kind of design patterns that I mentioned, but figure out how to simplify it for a case that makes sense for hyper casual games. So what do you think about gaming, Eric? How do you feel about gaming in Midnight?
I love gaming. What happened? I mean, within Eda Labs, building products when you depend on, for example, legal, some external things. I mean, it complicates things. We're gonna get there. But gaming, it's something that it doesn't have that much friction. You're gonna be able to kind of showcase what's on your mind without any kind of restriction or friction at all, and you're free to build. You're free to actually demonstrate. I think gaming, it's gonna be the use case that we're gonna see the latest features available within Midnight to the users, and then products are gonna start seeing what's being built on gaming and try to translate those features into, for example, real Fi products.
Yeah, it's fascinating because as I started to work within the Web3 space, I realized that a lot of people were studying video games because they simulate economies. So a lot of the things you're trying out in like DeFi applications, NFTs, asset ownership, before you bring that product to life, you can test it within a video game. And we've seen grand
Yeah.
economies like World of Warcraft or EVE Online,
Mhm.
where the actual in-game assets are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the other thing I want to highlight is that this industry, this field is continuing to grow, whether it's like esports or even if you look at games like Fortnite, the creator economy is absurd. People are making maps where they're generating millions of dollars just for creating a map that other people can participate in.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, Jay. I mean, everything is a game. What difference a game, a digital game with real life? It's just uh, you need to obey things. You need to follow rules, right? But at the end, the game it just translates whatever it's there, but on the digital part, and you don't depend on anything. You just can build without any restriction. I love gaming. I mean, that's why. I mean, this use case it's huge for me at Midnight.
Yeah, and I, as far as I remember too, I think your team worked on a video game, right? And you had like a in-person card game at one point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was so much fun during that hackathon. People building that game, and the funny part about gaming is that actually build a game in Midnight using Compact. It's really quite easy. The UI part actually it's the tricky one, right? Because gaming you have a lot of things once when it comes to the UI. But then one nice thing that, for example, I was talking with Sebastian the other time, user experience, it's another uh, cool feature that Midnight is working really hard to offer to the game industry, right? For example, right now, Night and Dust. I mean, people be able to interact with contracts without knowing that they are using a blockchain because you can pay in whatever token, but under the hood, you're using Dust. Proof server, they're under the hood being built by some application and they don't know even they're using proof servers, right? So this user experience, once we get there, I mean, gaming with Midnight, they're going to be huge.
Yeah, and we've already seen Sebastian and team kind of tease out some of the applications that they're working on where you can interact with the game without having a wallet, without being aware that Midnight even exists at all. So we're already marching towards that direction.
No, yeah, for sure. I remember the hackathon and they showcased what they were willing. We were like, wow, that's really cool. I mean, the user experience was just huge for them, right? Love it.
It's amazing. So now, before I get into community updates, I'll look through some questions. I see Tiana Bugs, ZK Poker. Yeah, that's a great opportunity. And actually, it reminds me too, and it's a good example, poker in particular, of a reason why you would want to make a decentralized game, but you still need some of that information private, and then you still need to reveal what the outcome is. So I remember reading about a casino online where they had something called the God's Hand that anyone could purchase. And I could purchase this, for like $1,000, $2,000. And what it allowed me to do was see my opponent's hand and to see their cards, right? So this is the kind of situation where there's money on the line and you knowing that person's private information is a big problem, right? They're going to lose money. They're playing a flawed game. So that's a good use case, poker in particular, where you can hide some of the information, and it's important to hide that information. But at some point, you would need to reveal it to prove that you won a particular game, you have a hand or something like that. Let me see. I'm just reading through the comments. That is John. That is a key that will make it so popular. Gaming without realizing you're interacting with Web3. Yeah, we definitely agree on that part. And Erick's helping everyone move a little bit closer to seeing that reality. Let's see. Does Erick still do his weekly classes on how to build on Midnight? Do you?
Okay, well, that was since we were transitioning from testnet 02 to preview, right? It's been 1 month that we haven't done any videos, but we are starting this week. So these videos are coming. We're gonna be producing videos weekly in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, and we're gonna teach how to build contracts, products, everything on Midnight. So stay tuned; it's coming.
Nice. So they gotta subscribe. So let's see, John. The online gaming industry is a massive multi-hundred billion dollar sector with global revenues estimated around 180 to 200 billion in 2023 to 2024, primarily driven by mobile gaming with projections. So yeah, it's a massive industry. It's absurd how much money's in gaming at this point. Let's see, Trills, can we get a video breaking down the best way to own Night, the benefits and intro for new Night owners? Yes, actually, I think Idris is working on a video on that. That is either published or should be published soon. If we have a link available from the team, drop it in the chat so that other people can access that. Trills, question. I'm new to crypto. I'm new to crypto tonight. I've been deep diving for weeks, and my AI said the best way to own is to get a hard wallet with the Ledger Nano X and download Lace and transfer it from Kraken. That's more so token conversations. I think that's better. That's more appropriate to ask in the Discord. This is more so focused on development. So try asking in the Discord. Let's see, John, how do we incentivize game creators to share off-chain logic publicly for all to learn? Do you have any thoughts on that, Erick?
No, I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly, but it's kind of related to open source, I think, right? Or
It's off-chain logic. So my assumption is that he's saying, let's say I accomplish something and I have an off-chain, I have a private state, right? That like proves I've accomplished something. Is there a way for another game to gain access to that or something like that? That's my understanding.
Okay. Okay. Well, actually, that's something that I'm looking really forward with Midnight, right? Because at the end, Midnight, it's not just a blockchain; it's kind of a pet SDK technology. So we're gonna be able to. Right now, we are just using SDK, but what I heard and I see people that are building other layers on Midnight, so we're gonna be able to interact with other techs like, for example, TEs. We're gonna be using NPCs. So it's kind of like we're gonna be able to interact. Right now, the logic when you create those CKs, this proof, it happens in your machine,
Yep.
right? Just with you. But you cannot interact with other people off chain to actually create a proof. So that's when these other technology is gonna come into play. And from what I heard, it's coming to Midnight. So yeah, I mean, Midnight is gonna be pretty much a pet SDK. So you're gonna be able to use these different technology, and that's one of the reasons that I see why Google Cloud and others are really interested to partner with Midnight, because they have that technology, and the best way to integrate that off-chain computation, it's with on-chain verification. And who is the best to do that? It's Midnight.
Nice. And that's also important not only for several games to be able to collaborate, but I've seen this issue also come up with cross devices, right? Like I start something on maybe my desktop and then I move on to my mobile. How is that private state kind of managed across? So that's a big problem that's going to need to be addressed soon. Okay, just looking through the questions. Let's see. Let me see the more recent ones. Just a lot of cheering. Go Midnight. Let's see. The Midnight Foundation studio team will make a few examples available to all. That's from Ron, our solutions engineering team. By the way, Erick, you offered me 1 million nights. Yes, please. They're taking you up on it. They got to drop their wallets.
Okay. Yeah. I'm a millionaire in undeployed network.
Nice. Yeah, so I see Sage and Pages. I asked the Cardano community what they wanted to see on Midnight, and the games was high on their list. So that's promising. If you know of any games in particular, it would be awesome to get that feedback. We are going to make a big gaming push. And I think that actually is a good time now to transition to our community updates. So along those lines, the reason why I wanted for us to focus on gaming today is because Every January, there is an event called a Global Game Jam that kicks off, and it's the last week of January. There's hundreds of locations all around the world, physical locations, there's online events where everyone comes together to build video games. And this has been happening for several years. And people come just because they love the nature of building video games. It's always fun to play games with people. And we are joining the Global Game Jam. So later in this month, we'll have an opportunity for people within our community to build games. We'll also be kind of rewarding some of those builders for their video games because we want to see those go to production, go live, and have our community test and play those video games. So if you're working on a video game, definitely reach out. And if you're interested, stay tuned because we'll be making more announcements on our participation on the Global Game Jam. So that's mostly why we've been focusing on video games. And I hope you're all excited and getting ready. Now, the next update is our project readiness. So we have a form that we would like some of you to fill out if you have been building on Midnight, whether that's testnet or you started migrating to PreviewNet. We'd like to get a better understanding of who is prepping to go to mainnet. So if we could put that QR code up, you can scan this QR code to let us know where you are along that process. And we'd like to get in touch with you so that we can coordinate with all of the teams that are planning to go to mainnet, make sure you have all the resources you need, whether that's help with your code, prepping, talking to the community, getting your idea out there. Let's hear from you. Let's fill out that form if you plan to build on Midnight mainnet. Now, the next update we have is Build Club. So we've spoken about Build Club a few times, going as far back as the summit. And Build Club is an opportunity for you to take an idea, to work with us, and we'll help you with your marketing, your business development, and even put together pitch decks, put you in front of people that are interested in trying your products, services, and helping you bring that to market, whether that's through investments or through community testing. So this is a project that I've been working on with the team closely. I am super excited for this. We'll have some more announcements coming out over the next couple of weeks, but we do have an open application right now for Build Club. So if you are building an application on Midnight, whether that's a video game, healthcare, AI, any one of our verticals, we're interested in hearing your ideas, seeing which ones work really well with what our current roadmap is, what's really possible, and seeing which ideas can really go from product to a business. So we'll help you get there. And if you're working on something that's being built on Midnight, I encourage you to scan this QR code and apply to our Build Club. We're actively interviewing teams. We're working with mentors. We have a lot planned for that, and it's going to kick off soon. So if you're building on Midnight, you want to get an MVP across, I highly suggest scanning that and talking to us. Now, the next update we have is Academy lessons. So we've been working on transition our Academy. We have a couple of lessons up, and you can get started there. We're going to be migrating a lot of our work over to this Academy Lessons platform. So you can go through the lessons, kind of check that you've actually understood what's going on, get some points, and go through your educational process. So we'll be building this out over the next couple of weeks. But if you're here, you get to see this a bit earlier, get to give us some feedback. We have some people testing and going in. So let us know what you think. And lastly, I pulled some updates from the forum. So I always encourage everyone to post on the forum what you're doing, what you're working on. Let us know, because I'd like to surface those things. If people are building within our community, I'd like to share that. So earlier today, and one of our active community members is our Midnight Explorer team. So they've announced earlier today that they are supporting PreviewNet. So if you scan this Midnight Explorer, you can see there's a preview tab already available on their site, and you can start engaging with it now. So they've been posting constantly. I see their page is growing fast. So if you're interested in checking out Explorers, that is one of the Explorers that are on our network and currently building. And now the last thing I want to touch on is Twitter communities. I've seen two different people spring up communities on Twitter. I think it would be great for you two to collaborate. So this is the first one that was sent to me. It's also posted on our forum. If you want to look through our community chats, you can see that Twitter community. You can see all their posts and start engaging with them. And I thought it'd be awesome for us to kind of point everyone towards these communities so that you can find each other online on Twitter, start engaging with each other, see what other people are posting, retweet those pieces of content. So we have two separate communities, but I hope that you can coordinate together and either collaborate or figure out kind of what angles you want to address. But I figured we'd surface this now, highlight it, and let people know that people are springing up our Twitter communities and starting chattering on there. So I see some scans. Awesome. I hope to see you all on Twitter. So that's mostly our dev hangout for today. Eric, do you have any last things you want to share with the community? Maybe things for them to consider, whether they're building games using the starter template or some just general messages for the Midnight community?
Yeah, for sure. Just my I'm just really happy with the engagement of the community. I've seen that people are realizing the potential of Midnight, what they can build on top of that, and how developer friendly it's to build on Midnight actually. So I hope people enjoy the starter template and this amazing technology. And on top of that, just giving some heads up that now people getting into Midnight, they're gonna have a lot of support, right? There is the Discord, the real team, and now we have the Night Force, the ambassadors of Midnight, and the elites. So yeah, plenty of support. I mean, not better timing to join Midnight than right now.
Awesome. I'm super excited to have everyone here too. I see one last question. Through which channel is best to reach? So if you have a update you want to share with the community, I suggest posting it in the forum. If you have some issues that you're running into that you would like the DevRels team support on, I also suggest posting in the forum. If you want to discuss your ideas with the community, maybe share some ideas, form teams, I suggest going into the dev chat in our group. You can always reach out to me personally if you have something maybe private you want to share. I have people reaching out to me all the time on either Discord or Telegram. That's fine. But yeah, our DMs are pretty open. At least mine definitely are. So reach out if you have a project you're working on, you want to share, and I'll coordinate with you. So that's all we have to share for today. I want to thank you all. I am super excited to see people start to build some games, for us to support you in those games, and hopefully get some testing and some game nights, maybe in our servers. Have people provide feedback on your games, see how those are working out, and go through those experiences with you all. So I want to thank you again. My name is Jay. Thank you, Eric, for joining us, and I hope everyone has an awesome day and an awesome year.